Maria, thanks so much for coming back to my channel. Sorry if my camera skipped there a little bit. My webcam is being a little bit finicky again, and yes, I apologize that I'm doing this on my webcam again. As some of you know, I broke my iPhone and I'm using a really old Android replacement, and the phone quality is even worse than the iPhone was, so this is as good as we're going to do for the moment, and I apologize for that. But today is Tuesday, which means I have an update for you guys since today was our IVF orientation. So you guys had a lot of really great questions after my last video. So I really wanted to kind of split this up a little bit and explain what happened during the appointment. Someone pointed out to me, obviously not all clinics are the same, but their clinic doesn't do an orientation. So they were interested in what the orientation consisted of. So I thought I'd go through what the orientation was and then what the plan is, and then kind of, if you watched my last video, you guys know that I had a lot of hesitations going into today and a lot of questions. So I'll go over all of that stuff with you guys and let you know how I feel about things too. So I wanted to start with what exactly was our orientation. So we got there about 15 minutes early today just because we were supposed to have our paperwork in a week early. But as you may know, my paperwork didn't come until Saturday. So there was obviously no way I could get in a week in advance. So we went in a little early to make sure there were no questions or issues, with my paperwork. So we got all signed in and everything, and then they came and got Jason first and took him back for his semen analysis. And once he was done with that, they brought me back to meet him in a conference room. Now, a lot of places you get one coordinator. We actually have two coordinators. Our first coordinator is Marianne, and she is more on the planning side of things, making sure that my protocol is all together and that all of the necessary testing is done and that my schedule is laid out. She'll be the one that I meet with to get my calendar and to go through all of that stuff. My other coordinator will be Michelle, and she's on the monitoring side of things. So she's the person that I'll talk to about blood work, ultrasounds, scheduling the actual retrieval and the transfer and all of that. So we met with Marianne first, and she kind of went through what is IVF, but about partway through her talk, she kind of started catching on that Jason and I have done a lot of research. So she kind of just breezed through a few things for us just so that we understood. She went through this whole pack of paperwork, which I'm going to share some of this with you guys. Just so that you know what my clinic does and some of the things to maybe expect from your clinic. And asked us a lot of questions and gave us the opportunity to ask questions. So some of the main things that I learned today are there's actually a separate person that I'm going to have to talk to about PGD testing. There's a head embryologist in charge of PGD, and that's all she does. So I have to talk to her to sign a few more pieces of paper to go the route of PGD, and also she will then get involved as well. I believe her name is, and I thought I had this right. Yeah, Tiffany is her name. So we'll have a third coordinator handling the PGD portion if we go that route, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So, but she explained that what happens then if we do PGD is, obviously we have retrieval day, and she said the second you wake up, and my clinic does put me in twilight, so she said you will be completely asleep for the retrieval. I know some places don't do that, but mine does. So she said as soon as you wake up, we'll be able to tell you how many eggs we were able to collect right off the bat. So that's nice. And then she said by later that day, we'll be able to tell you how many of them are mature. And she said then of those mature eggs, they will add the sperm, leave them overnight, and then the next morning the embryologist will take a look to see how many fertilized. And then I'll get another call. So that's then considered day one. Day one's not retrieval day, it's the next day. So that's day one. So then from that point, they're going to be watching how they're dividing and grading them. She said they will only work with A and B quality. They'll not work with C and D. So as long as they stay A and B quality, then we're in good shape. she said from there, if we're doing PGD testing, on day 5, they take all of the embryos that have, 1, made it to day 5, and 2 are A or B quality, and they ship them off to the company who actually, well, shouldn't say company, but the other section of their practice that actually does the actual PGD testing. So they get them on day 5, and then they're shipped back day 6 with the report of, and she said, and every day we'll call you. So she said, then we'd call you again and say, here's how many we have, and here's what they are, and here's what your options are. So she said, if you want, you can do a transfer on day 6, but she said our best results with people who are doing PGD, she said, is to freeze them, send them out to be biopsied. They then remain frozen, are sent back, and then frozen until the following cycle. So I'd stim, trigger, have my retrieval, then go through the whole process of getting them to blastocyst stage. If they're A or B quality, they'd ship them out for PGD testing, frozen, and then keep them frozen until my next cycle, when then I would go on medications to prepare for a FET. She said the results are much better going with the FET versus fresh cycle, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. I've heard that a lot as well from a lot of you guys and a lot of other YouTubers, that a frozen cycle is much better. So it sounds to me like we then wouldn't transfer till sometime like end of December-ish, beginning of January, versus, being transferring next month or the beginning of December. So, it stinks to have to wait, but clearly whatever the better results are, that's the way we want to go. She also said that the other thing to consider is they like to send at least 8 embryos out to be tested, because she said if they've made it to day 5, they're A or B quality, chances are really, really good that everything will be fine with the PGD, and then we'd have 8 to work with that are going to be frozen. And she said if they're A or B quality, chances are obviously much better that they'll survive the thaw. So you'll end up with hopefully still 8 remaining. So she said if we only end up with like 3 or 4 that make it to day 5 that are blastocysts that, go through PGD, are ready for PGD, she said a lot of times people opt to freeze them and then do another cycle of stimming, do another retrieval so that they get to like at least 8 to send out to be tested. So she said that's another option. Obviously, we really don't want to do that for financial reasons, and also just having to wait. But mostly for financial reasons, I'm really not sure if my insurance would cover medications 2 cycles in a row only to increase the number of embryos that we would have. Not sure. That's something I have to call about. I have to call Tiffany, who's in charge, I said the head embryologist for PGD, to talk to her about what our options are there, just so I can kind of figure that out. And then I need to call the financial coordinator again, Amy, who's just wonderful, but she's talked to me like a million times already, just to see more about my insurance with, what would be covered and what wouldn't. So then we would have a transfer. So really our options are, if we do PGD, or to do a fresh day 6 transfer, to freeze and do a transfer the following month, or to collect eggs and create embryos over the course of 2 months, freeze, and then transfer after the second month. So we have a lot of things to think about, and there's still a lot of things that could happen. We don't know yet. So that's kind of what we went through in the orientation as far as the process and everything. Now, as far as the paperwork goes, there are a couple different things that they gave us. First, I showed you guys this before. This has and I noticed on my last video, if I put this in front of my face, you can't hear me anymore, so I'm sorry about that. But this is the fee schedule for freezing, and all that stuff. So And she also brought up ICSI, if there's a problem with Jason's semen analysis and we have to do ICSI, it's $1,600, and that's something we have to pay for. So fingers crossed that there's no issue and we don't need ICSI. And then there's an initial fee for the freezing, which is $625, and then there's an annual storage fee of $750. So we would have to pay the $625 and the $750 up front right away. So she went over that, which of course my husband's eyes were getting like this big. He wasn't listening to me when I was telling him about the money thing, I don't think. So next is just my IVF checklist, which she checked off stuff today. So obviously it was to have my orientation, to have a hysteroscopy, which I've already had done. And then I have to schedule an appointment for teaching me how to do the injectables, which I scheduled my, well, Jason and I both have to go, actually. It'll be on Monday. So Monday afternoon, he and I have to go to learn how to do the injectables. And then I basically just wait for my cycle to start, and I call them on the first day of my full flow, and then they'll schedule me 2 or 3 days after that for my first blood work and ultrasound. So then there's an IVF checklist, just to make sure that you have everything done that you need done. So orientation is done. All of my blood work is done. And that's something I talked to her about. And she said, yeah, I'm sorry. We're not used to people having this all done when they get here. So I guess Dr. Orris ordering that full workup was kind of an uncommon thing. All male blood work done. Jason did have to give some more blood today. He had to have a couple more things tested, so we'll have those results next week. Semen analysis completed. He did that today. Hysteroscopy, I had that last month, or the month before. I can't remember now. Copy of most recent pap smear. And then everything signed, financial consultant spoken with, clearances obtained, and I have to call Tiffany for PGD. So that's my little checklist, which everything's done on there except calling Tiffany, which I'm going to do tomorrow. She also gave me this, which is awesome. She said to keep this with me wherever I go. This is my pre-retrieval instruction list. And she said they're going to run through this verbatim when they call me. So it literally lists every possible option as far as my medications, what I should and shouldn't do, and then they'll tell me which ones to check off. I will have a HCG trigger. They told me that today. And, yeah, I think that's really all on here. But then it goes through, all the stuff for retrieval day 2 about jewelry and not using scented products, brushing your teeth, not eating or drinking, and then all of your oils and everything like that. And then you have to pay $500 if your insurance doesn't cover the anesthesia, but mine does, thank the Lord. So she went through that and then gave me the info for the PGD again. And then there's just a whole bunch of other stuff in here. There's a welcome to IVF thing, which we already know that stuff. Then they give you a packet of all of the discounts that they offer through this clinic. So we have to find out exactly what our medicine coverage is going to be, which I'll get into that in a second. And then she gave me the instructions for my subcutaneous injections and then my intramuscular injections. And I think it's pretty cool because, of course, this one. So there's the little diagram about where I can and cannot have the injections. And obviously Jason is going to have to do the intramuscular one for me. And then it gives you the spots where you can have it for your subcutaneous too. So, she went through all of that with us. And then my other coordinator, I told you guys I was going to have a total of 3. My second coordinator from the monitoring side, her name's Michelle. She came in to talk to me. So I mentioned about my medications and finding out what they cover. My fertility clinic works with a pharmacy called Rosemont Pharmacy, and they are specifically about fertility medications, and they're 24/7, which is awesome. So they always make sure that they have the lowest prices, and they work with your insurance for free to figure out how to code things and get it done so that you get the most coverage possible. And then they'll also ship then to a specialty pharmacy if that's what the insurance dictates. And they can also ship to my house. And it's nice because even though the clinic's 45 minutes away from me, I'm going to be down there a lot for appointments, and this is right around the corner. So I can grab my stuff while I'm there. So she said to give the pharmacy a call in the next week to get the process started there as well. Yeah. So Michelle talked to us about that. And then she talked to us about, and I want to cover her. I'm going to fold this back, cover her info, just because her cell phone's on there. So it talks about the monitoring team and who they are and what their role is and some of their most frequently asked questions about how many visits you can expect. And she said, stimming is usually between 10 and 12 days. Some people need less, some people need more, when appointments get scheduled. And then just like their most frequently asked questions, they do transfers 7 days a week. And then they also told me, which is really nice, a lot of clinics, you don't get to see your doctor when you go in for monitoring, but my clinic, we have the option to, as long as they're there that day. My clinic has 3 different locations. So as long as they're in, I can see my doctor if I want to, which is really nice. She also gave me a paper on OHSS. We all know what that is, and we don't want it, so we're not going to talk about it. And then she gave me a code for prenatals to get some money off of them if I need to switch, which she doesn't think that I will, but just in case. So that's kind of what we talked about. She told me, again, to call Tiffany for the PGD, to call her if I have any questions. They're all so nice. They give you their phone numbers and their cell phones so you can contact them whenever, which is really nice. Okay, so once we were done with that, they did Jason's blood work and his urine analysis. I'm not sure what that was for. They didn't really explain that. We set up our injection class, and that was it. That was my orientation. It was about an hour and a half. It was really informative. I learned a lot. I feel really overwhelmed tonight. So now kind of into more how I feel about it. As you guys know, I still have a lot of hesitations about the PGD process, moral hesitations, and it's hard for me, but and I'm still thinking about it, but I just feel like everything's falling into place for us with IVF, and we really need to give this its due and its opportunity. And so what I came to realize today through talking with the coordinators is that my clinic discards, and I hate that word, my clinic will not use embryos that are C or D quality anyway. We don't even have the option to use them. So they're going to be not using embryos regardless of whether we do PGD or not. So we signed all of the contracts. It's all set up. But I'm still a little bit torn about PGD just because, again, I feel like I just feel awful about it. So one of you guys had commented about the difference between PGD and PGS, which is awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, I knew some of that, but a lot of it was new information for me. So I really appreciate that. But they will be doing PGD, not PGS. So it's a tough decision. I'm going to talk to Tiffany, the head embryologist for PGD, and just really kind of get all of my questions answered, and we'll make a decision from there. But I just, like I said, I feel overwhelmed today. I feel exhausted. It's a lot to think about in a short period of time, especially since we're going to be starting so soon. I'm expecting my cycle in the next week or two, so it's happening fast, and it's just a lot. And I mean, we could choose to defer, obviously, till a later time, but we both really want to do this, so that's where we are. I will update you guys on probably later this week after I've talked to Tiffany and the pharmacy, and they're going to call me about the sperm analysis and call me about our projected plan so that I'll know all my medications and everything. So I'll do another update once I have all that for you guys. I'll do an update on Monday about our injection training, and then I'll be doing updates as soon as my cycle starts and every time I have appointments through the whole IVF process. I did ask them about filming. I'm allowed to do some filming, so I'm really excited about that. So I'll definitely do that for you guys. And I think that's really it. So let me know what questions you guys have. Is there anything you'd like more specifics on? Anything about the paperwork? Anything about what we did? Any questions or any questions for me? Do you guys have questions for me about anything? I'm happy to answer questions for you guys if you have them. I'd love to do that. So leave them in the box down below. And I hope you guys are all doing really well. We're almost to Wednesday. Yay! Midweek. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.